Good afternoon, everybody. We've got about 2:02 Central Time, so let's go ahead and get started. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Mike Schwartz with IFMA, the International Food Service Manufacturers Association. And today we've got a great lineup here. Just so you all know that we will hold a Q&A, questions and answers, at the very end of the call. And this webinar will be recorded and will be available for those on the website after the call is completed. But without further ado, just want to hand it off to Mike Cannon here. Mike?
Thanks, Mike, and good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your day. We've got a great program today with Patti, so without any further ado on my part, let me just give you a little bit of background. Patti combines strategic vision with tactical execution within the restaurant and food service industry. She spent about 12 years at McDonald's working corporately, really understanding and ingraining herself in the restaurant industry. And after that, she broadened her knowledge consulting with small businesses on operational process improvements. And as we're all members of our small and mid-sized business committee, we know that those are things that we deal with every day. After that, she spent some time with the Women's Food Service Forum, BAMA Companies, Florida Plastics International, and I think it's probably safe to say I'm probably the first person that's had the chance to introduce somebody who holds 7 U.S. patents. So help me welcome Patti Venetucci to our small and mid-sized business committee's monthly call. Patti?
Thank you, Mike. That was a joy to listen to.
Okay,
Hello, everybody, and I'd like to thank IFMA and both Mike's and Tracy and everybody at the IFMA site that is helping me through this technology entree that we're going to go through in a couple of minutes here. So, again, Mike, thank you very much for the introduction. And our topic of discussion today is what do you really need to know before you walk through the door and try to gain some client insight that will help you be more successful in your interaction with your customers. In doing so, a little bit about what I do today. I own my own company, as Mike was saying. It's called 4C Consulting Group. Between myself and my partner, we have over 50 years experience in the food service industry. And rather than the 7 patents, what I think is a little bit more unique about us is that we have actually worked on all legs, if you will, of the industry. So both my partner and I have worked for the restaurant/operators, McDonald's in one, KFC, Pizza Hut, Yum Brand is another one. We both worked for equipment manufacturers and understand the pains that they have to go through. I have worked for the food manufacturing side of the business, and I also worked in the non-for-profit industry side, which was the Women's Food Service Forum. But what's unique about us is that we're both engineers, and we bring engineering techniques and tools into the restaurant industry in order to determine some fact-based and root cause identification of problems, and then obviously the creation of the solution associated with those problems. And our specialty is in the productivity area where we do a lot of analysis and idea solution, innovation and ideation. For today's short hour, I hope to have covered the following couple of things. So I want to talk just briefly about the industry and the challenges that, depending on what avenue you're at on the industry leg, the challenges that you're probably facing within the industry, and then jump more into exactly what is happening at the restaurants, what do they face on a day-to-day basis, what makes their heads spin, and then hopefully give you some thought and some insight into a way to look at your product development and your innovation to be a little bit more successful and maybe get to market a little bit more frequently than you have in the past. And we're going to leave you hopefully with some takeaways, which we call food for thought. So moving into the industry and where we are at today, whether you're receiving information from industry publications or not, I would highly recommend it. So, IFMA obviously is a great way for you to get notification of what's happening in your segment. But there are all kinds of LinkedIn groups that are out there and all types of different industry publications that are out there that send you, ping you with information on a weekly basis that gives you the key headlines, and they show you who's in the news and what the key topics are. And if you're not getting that, I would strongly suggest getting connected into those groups and getting on those email alerts so you can see what the operator groups are currently doing and facing and what they're talking about. So the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about just what is happening today in the overall food service industry segment. And you cannot open an article or listen to the news or see anything unless you hear about minimum wage. No matter where you are, you're hearing about some protest that is going on between some workforce against some restaurant chain trying to get the minimum wage increased. And they're not talking about small increases. They're talking on average going from $7.50 an hour up to $10 an hour. And when you step back and you think about that, that's a 30% pay increase. Even when life was good in my career, I don't think I ever saw a 30% pay increase in any one given year. So, and you think about where is that money coming from, especially when you talk about restaurants. It's pennies on the dollar. Their profit line is always pennies on the dollar. And so where are they going to recapture this loss in money in order to be able to be as profitable as they are today when that minimum wage does in fact go up? So everybody is trying to figure out how to do more with less. And that's the restaurants, that's the food manufacturers, that's the food suppliers, that's the non-for-profit. That is just the world today as we know it. How can I do more with less people? So in theory, though, what exactly happens at the restaurants that makes it so challenging for a daily shift run? And if there's anybody at your current organization that has ever worked at a restaurant through high school, through college, I strongly suggest you just talk to them about what they liked about their day at the restaurant, what they hated. Just try to find out, just the things that happen on a day-to-day basis. Or when you go out for lunch, try to get a table that's close to the kitchen and listen and overhear what the conversation is that is happening behind that kitchen door. It gives you a little bit of an insight to what the restaurant managers are facing. But they're all talking about reducing labor, reducing staff, right? They're trying to get their staff down below that 32-hour-a-week workload so they don't have to pay for health care. They got to reduce all of their operating costs. They've got to figure out how they're going to grow their business in smaller footprints. So the price of real estate has gone up. They need to get into smaller locations in order for that to be a net. So how do they get all their equipment in there? How do they get their tables in there? So how can they redesign and innovate around getting into smaller locations? How can they buy one piece of equipment that's going to be able to cook many things as opposed to the way it used to be where you had a hot dog roller for a hot dog and that's the only thing you ever used it for. Now they're trying to figure out how they can buy equipment that's used on multiple products. Ergonomics is a big factor. There's a lot of lawsuits out there about people suing the restaurant chains for carpal tunnel, for repeated redundant activities, bending over, stretching, reaching up too high, lifting boxes. All of these things are on a restaurant manager's mind every day. And then menu flexibility, quote, growability. There's all kinds of things around the menu, which is kind of where we're going to go with this talk in a little bit. So the next one is obviously equipment suppliers' challenges. They face even though they're in the same industry, they face challenges. Their challenges are a little bit different. They have a hard time getting to the right person. So who is the person in the restaurant business that's actually making decisions about equipment purchasing? If you're talking to a company, for example, like Yum, is it Yum Corporate that is going to say yes to one thing, and do they force it on all their restaurants? Panera Bread. Does the corporate Panera Bread say do this, and do all the Panera Breads do that? Or do they have that little bit of a luxury? Sometimes McDonald's has that little bit of a luxury that even though corporate might say do A, Mr. Franchisee might do B, and they have that right under their agreement. So there's a lot of challenges there. And equipment is very expensive. So when I worked for an equipment manufacturer, we were trying to develop a new product. We spent 18 months, about $1 million. We thought we had got it to market. We went through all kinds of tests. It performed well. We thought they were ready to release it. We were gearing up for a deployment. Life was good until the restaurant chain bid it out. So they took all of the knowledge that they had gained with us while we were in test with them, and they went out for bid and tried to find it from another manufacturer cheaper. So the challenges are endless from all sides of the coin, if you will. And then obviously there is, of course, the food manufacturers. You too face extreme challenges. Here I've listed just a few. Market, at least when I was there, the market tests, they take way too long. They repeat themselves. They go over and over again. They tweak, they change, they redo it. And you as a food manufacturer just keep supporting it, spending money, tweaking the recipe and the formulation, waiting for the operator to move forward, and it doesn't happen. And why doesn't it happen? A lot of times the restaurant can't replicate the cook. They don't have the equipment, or the equipment that needs to be used to cook out that product is busy cooking out something else. And unfortunately, the operators didn't see that coming, or wasn't aware of it, or wasn't top of mind, especially with the menu development people, or it's not on their strategy. So there's many challenges that we all face in our day-to-day dealings being in the food service industry. So again, to try to help you understand a little bit about what the restaurant's pain points truly are, and how do you get yourself aligned with those restaurants and operators so you have a higher success rate as you develop your products and start to try to deploy them. So every customer is a little bit different. Even though we all play within the food service industry, your sector of the customer that you're dealing with has different and conflicting priorities. So first of all, you need to categorize the customers that you are trying to obtain, whether or not you have customers, put them into different segments and buckets because they are driving towards different things. So you have the QSR bucket, you have a fast casual bucket, you have casual, you have fine dining, and then if you don't have on your list a C-store market, you should have on your list a C-store market. Because if we start at the top and talk about fast QSRs, they are all about quick food, reasonably priced, and products that can be reproduced at the restaurant level with very minimum effort, right? It's the entry point into the labor pool. Fast casual, on the other hand, they put a little bit more effort into the food preparation and the quality of the food. It takes them a bit longer to serve their customers. They charge a little bit more, and they have a little bit better sophisticated kitchen equipment. Casual dining and fine dining, due to their large menu variety, they have bigger equipment packages, and therefore they have more capacity to cook different types of product without impacting service. And then the C-store, like I said, the statistic for C-stores, in case you're not aware of this, is because of the economic crisis that we had in 2008, people are driving more to get to their jobs because they've had to take jobs that are further away from home. So the average worker stops for gasoline 2.3 times a week in the U.S., which has opened up the eyes to the C-store umbrella to gain market share on out-of-home food purchases. And they are trying to get away from prepackaged retail-type food and get into more of a higher quality, cook-to-order type food. So if you're not already have C-store customers, I strongly suggest you start to embed yourself into that marketplace because it is an ever-growing one. So a real quick little snippet of a kitchen in New York, and hopefully, I don't know, Tracy, maybe you can help me play this. I'm not sure if I can get it to play properly from my side, so let's see if this will work. I want you to kind of watch this video. And if you notice, just watch the people movement. They are walking over each other constantly, back and forth and back and forth. And you'll see in front of you there are all kinds of food prep tables where they're cutting the food, they're chopping the food. So although there's a lot of stuff happening in this kitchen, there's a lot of opportunity for products. Thank you very much, Tracy. So keep that in the back of your mind. So if you've never been behind the doors of a kitchen, strongly suggest, and we're going to talk about how you can actually get behind the doors, but everything that you see in a kitchen is an opportunity for a problem that needs to be solved. So what are the restaurant's priorities? So, you know, they're always balancing. They have a P&L to control, just like everybody else has a P&L to control. And so how do they make their profit go up and their expenses go down? Right now what's happening is profits are going down and expenses are going up. So food costs are going up at about 5%. We talked about labor. We know how expensive that is. And then the profit side, everything's going down. Competition is fierce. So how can we help position your products into the right market and the segment? So, for example, think about Panera Bread versus somebody like a McDonald's or somebody. Let's think about Panera Bread. Somebody like I'm going to pick a different fast casual. Somebody like a country kitchen. Panera Bread is all about limited time offering, LTO. So if you've ever noticed, they probably refresh their LTOs on a 2-month basis. They have a summer menu, they have a fall menu, they have a school menu. So as the lifestyles change throughout the year, Panera Bread is right there with their customers changing around their menu. Great for the consumer at the actual food purchaser because I get such a variety. Not so great for the food manufacturer that's gone through all this development but find that their products are only on the menu for a 6-week, 8-week period, right? Unlike other people like Country Kitchen where things are on the menu and they're there to last. So they hardly ever take anything off the menu. So it's a great staple item. You get longevity out of your product development. But, you know, who's gaining the market share? It's people like Panera Bread. So you have to understand this strategy, the menu strategy of the clients that you're chasing in order to be able to pick and choose which product development segments you want to play in. This is a painful circle, so we call it the circle of pain. And you start with it's almost like a what-if wheel that just keeps spinning and spinning in the restaurant's point of view. So they have low or no sales, which impacts their P&L. And if you ever were a restaurant manager or played in that space, you will know that you are judged on your P&L. So how do the restaurant managers find ways creatively to figure out how to better their P&L? So, and you move down and around this wheel like you do on a clock, and you move into what is happening with your competition. What are they doing? And then you move into what's happening with real estate. We talked about buildings are getting smaller. Square footage price per dollar is going up. We move into equipment. Equipment's very expensive, so equipment packages run from $50,000 to up to and over $400,000 per location. That's a pretty hefty price tag to get into the business. Staffing is high, turnover is high, the labor pool is low. Where are you going to find the people? Average turnover at the restaurants, anywhere between 75% up to about 120%. If you talk QSR, it's on the higher side. So what does that mean, 120%? Average QSR employs about 40 people. That means every year they have to hire 48 people. So where are these people coming from? And then talk about they get them. They have a minimum wage that's ever increasing. They have to train these people, and then they lose them. And so they get caught in this little tiny wind spool, if you will, and they stay there and they cannot get out. So that's an ever-spinning tornado cycle that they go through. And it happens every day, and they are worried about it every day. They have to find new people every day. So that's a huge concern. Increased food and utility costs. Prices are going up about 3 to 5% per year. And then at the very top of this pain point is, as they're running their business, food safety. You know, the worst thing that could happen to a restaurant tour is a food safety issue. We all know what happened to Jack in the Box many years ago, and it kind of put a hatchet in the ground that people now strive to never repeat. It's like, do not get an E. coli situation at your store, or it will take you down. It could take the brand down as well. So it's very, very high on their mind. So where do you spend your time, and how do you determine how to get in the door and how to make your product development more successful? And this is where we tend at 4C to focus our stuff on. So we have restaurant menu, equipment, people, and processes. So what we like to say, we have, like, since we're engineers, we call it the isosceles map, like an isosceles triangle where 3 sides are equal, quote unquote. We have 3 areas of the restaurant that don't necessarily need to be equal, but definitely need to be balanced. So between menu, equipment, and people and process, they need to be balanced, and you need to be focused on that sweet spot where the 3 of those interact, which means developing around using equipment that already has capacity, has existing space and capacity, so it's not to full use behind the kitchen. Developing products that people can repeat at the restaurant level. And then creating a flexible menu that's not a complex menu so that the restaurant can execute it well. And that's where that little sweet spot is where everybody needs to play. Now, what really, really happens when you open a kitchen door and you look behind it? We're going to talk about those 3 segments. We're going to start with menu. So we're going to focus for the time constraint that we have today. We're going to focus strictly on the QSR segment. But it's the idea and the concept could be spread across the other restaurant segments as well. So think about this, but think about the number and the percentages that I give you is strictly based on QSR. So the numbers shown here in this slide are for an average QSR, and the percent is the percent of that category's contribution to the daily sales. So lunch and main meal category contributes about 29% of the sales in that category to the daily sales. And this 6th category is pretty much for, like I said, for the QSR industry. So instead of trying to create something new, play within those segments. So maximize the category. So if you are currently selling to a customer and you're selling them a breakfast item, find out whether or not that category is saturated. Has the market for eat-out breakfast become so saturated that they are not going to get any new clients? If the answer is yes, you got to think about your product development relative to that. If it's If the menu's not saturated or the segment's not saturated in breakfast and you're selling them a breakfast item, what a great spot to be, because you can play in your menu development to create alternates that fall within that category that help them grow their category. So especially if that menu growth for breakfast is on their menu development plan and you're currently selling them a breakfast item, what else are people eating at breakfast? What are the competitors doing? And how can you manipulate your product development recipe that adds another menu item or a variety into that category that the restaurant can execute? So that's one way to play in this menu category. Another way to play in the menu category, say you're contributing to a client, you give them a breakfast item, it's a great seller, but the category is saturated and you're not going to go anywhere. But that operator is trying to grow their snack menu. Why not come up with a new way of formulating, quote unquote, your current item today into a snack item? Reduce its size, change the shape, make it a breakable product so that it's easy to share. The X and Y generation are all about sharing their food, so they love to go in and buy a product and eat it, multiple people eating it. Why not, if you already are selling something, try to reformat what you currently are selling in breakfast into a snack, or same thing for lunch, into a snack. Snack area growth is a big topic these days. People are trying to get the afternoon crowd from school to come in and get food before they eat, because dinner menu is being eaten later in the evening. So there is a wider window between lunch and dinner that allows people to snack. And the health-conscious people always say eating less more often is a great way to maintain your weight. So that snack category is huge. Try to take a look at your menu that you have today, your product development, and figure out if there's new formats that you could do that take your current ideas and just give it to them in a different format into the snack category. Great way to expand. This slide here might be a bit of an eye chart, and it's not meant to be anything, it's not meant to give you any true statistics. Sorry about that. But it is meant to show you that it's not about the quantity of menu items. It is about the right menu item wisely. So if you look all the way to the far right, you'll see Dairy Queen. And you'll see in that true green color, which is the snack category, Dairy Queen has probably over 200 menu item combinations in just that snack category. But is Dairy Queen really doing well? Not really. So it's not about the number of items that the operators sell, but it's about the right items in each of those categories. So again, you have to understand what the end customer is willing to eat and pay for, and we have to integrate that into the restaurant so that they can easily reproduce it for the price that's associated with it. So keep that in mind. Now, if we move into the equipment side of the business, we talked menu, equipment, and people and processes. Equipment is huge. So what do the operators currently have in the back of the house? Do you know if your customers use flat grills, char grills? Are they gas? Are they electric? Do they bring in product that is all cooked from scratch? Do they cook and hold? And if they hold, what do they hold in? Do they hold in steam cabinets? Do they hold in steam wells? Do they hold on induction plates? The whole notion of cooking technology and what is happening behind those doors of that restaurant helps you formulate products for success. So if you don't know what the equipment is being used behind that door, ask them for it. Ask your customers to give you their equipment schedule so that you know on a build-out that they have 6 feet of flat grill space. You might not know much more than that at this point in time, but at least you have that. And then we'll figure out how. I'm going to show you a little technique here on how you can determine what the capacity is. So you ask your customer for their equipment schedule, and you get your customer's menu. And what you do is you cross-map those two items, and you'll find out what piece of equipment that they have at their restaurant that's being underutilized. So if your menu line has, if you're going after a restaurant that's known for their ribs, don't try to come up with a product that's going to need to be cooked on a char grill, because I can tell you right now, most likely they have bought the linear square footage that they need for those ribs and no more. So they don't have any spare space on top of that char broiler for another char broiled piece of food. So really understand if that restaurant has its capacity to be able to cook off another product that your customer is asking you to do, or if you're developing on your own and your customer isn't asking you for help, but you're trying to be innovative and bring ideas to your customer, then you have to really understand this cross-mapping in order to figure out what could truly be successful, because they've already bought that piece of equipment. They might as well make use out of it. So try to find a product that could use a piece of equipment that's not being currently used. People and processes, this is always unique. And on the video that you saw earlier, you saw a bunch of different mapping of the people. So what we do a lot is we try to show our clients just how inefficient they happen to be, and whether it's the placement of the equipment or it's the food that they choose to sell. But all of these lines that you see here is the route a product and or person needs to take before the food can go over the front counter, which is that little yellow box at the very end, and the client can take it away and have their meal. So you can see on this map in particular, real large congestion. Again, this is a quick service restaurant, but a lot of congestion at the front counter to actually deliver product to the customer. Behind that first expo table, if you will, there you can see blue and orange and red. So there are three products that are trying to be cooked, assembled, and delivered to the customer. And the blue lines just make your head spin, because you might as well be a yo-yo if you're working that station, because you're going from the front to the back to the front to the back to the front to the back. So think about it from that perspective as well. When you develop a product, you want to make sure that it's almost like your manufacturing lines. This is nothing new for you guys. This is really kind of in your wheelhouse as it is. How do you get a raw item in at the back door, and how do you get that raw item through the cook cycle and out the front door as a finished good? It's the same philosophy. And hence, actually, that was one of our patents, was looking at a restaurant like a manufacturing line. Believe it or not, nobody had done that up to that point in time, to say, I got raw goods coming in my back door. I need finished goods to go out my front door. How can I make my line the most efficient and effective use of space? So how can you give them either par-cooked items that they only have to finish off? How can you have a short cook cycle? How can it be cooked easily, quickly, with good product quality that doesn't cause them to go back and forth, sautéing versus, assembly versus the fryer. There's a lot of steps in the food process chain, and you want to be as linear as you possibly can. And then last but not least, a couple of the key takeaways that I would say is, just as you're going and thinking about your operators, do you have in your hand their menu strategy? Do you know what their menu strategy is 3 or 5 year out? And are you aligned with that? Do you have product development that can align your product development with their vision on growth? Again, what's their growth strategy? And this is a little bit different than menu, but is it location? Are they trying to grow by opening up more locations? Are they trying to grow by going into a new day part? Perfect example of that one, Starbucks. at least here in the Chicago market, there's a couple of locations. They sell beer and wine in the evening now to try to get a day part segment that currently wasn't theirs. So they're trying to bring in the after work crowd to come on in, have a cocktail if you want. If not, go for your espresso. They got some menu snacks that they're trying to sell along with that category, but they're really trying to grow into a brand new day part. They were never there before. Or is their growth strategy menu variety? Panera Bread, like I said earlier, Panera Bread is a perfect example of somebody that continues to grow based on their menu strategy. New items all the time aligned with what the consumer wants. So understand your operator. Get to know where they're at. And they're in their different segments, remember if they're QSR, even though their day part strategy is a different strategy than somebody that's in casual dine, still trying to grow day part strategy. So the way you approach those two things are totally different. Think about a Outback Steakhouse. They're trying to grow their lunch. Starbucks is trying to grow dinner. Outback's trying to grow lunch. Both restaurant tours are trying to grow a day part strategy, but they're going about it in totally different avenues. And so you have to understand the segment as well in order to be able to help them grow that strategy. If you can, ask for permission to get behind the doors, or if you can't get behind the doors, get as close to the kitchen door as possible. My partner and I do that a lot. We go sit at a restaurant, we get a table as close to the kitchen window as possible, and we listen and we watch. And you'll know within the first 15 minutes what their pain points are. You'll hear it, you'll see it, and you should be able to come up with ideas that can help solve those things for them, because everybody has them. And no restaurant runs smoothly, so there are always opportunities out there. Again, get the equipment schedule. So ask your point of contact inside these locations for their equipment schedule for both their new builds and their existing locations, because sometimes the growth strategy is to go into existing sites that might have a 15-year-old equipment package. And you got to understand that. You got to understand what types of grills and fryers and capacity and energy usage is all happening on those pieces of equipment in order to be able to help you innovate your product development around that equipment. And then this last one, develop around the existing equipment. This is the mapping of the menu item to the kitchen equipment. So once you got the schedule and you know exactly what equipment's in there, get your menu and start drawing your lines, cross-matrixing them, and you'll see where there's space on a piece of equipment and try to formulate around that piece of equipment that has extra capacity. So all in all, that is what I can tell you about what I know in a matter of, maybe 40 minutes or so. And I open it back up to the group for questions.
Anybody have questions for Patti based on what she's presented over the last 40 minutes or so? Patti, I have a question. Based on your experience, what would you say is the most common mistake a manufacturer makes before walking in?
So I would split that answer into two. So if it's a brand new customer that I've never interacted, and I'm cold calling on that customer, I would think the biggest mistake is not really knowing that customer. So not doing a good job on researching what Facebook has to say, researching what Yelp has been saying about that customer, understanding, because you don't know and it's very hard to find out unless they're publicly traded, what their business plan is and what their strategy is and what their financial layout happens to be. So this goes back to, are they corporate managed but operator run, which is a big difference than being all corporately run, because that's one decision and everybody's happy. And that's a good place to play. So if you're playing with a company that is wholly owned, and all of their locations are owned by the corporate, one decision maker, and it all goes downhill. If you're playing with another client that happens to be corporately owned, but the operators own their own facility, you might have a different rollout philosophy. And knowing that up front, you should be able to segment who you want to chase before you chase. So understanding what that means to you. So that would be one thing. So really understanding that client if it's a cold call is number one. And then for those customers that you already have that are, you're already supplying product to, and now you just want to broaden your market share with that customer. I would say the biggest mistake there is not knowing the kitchen. So not knowing the ramifications of what happens in the kitchen. For example, corporate is telling you, help me develop product X. And oh, by the way, product X is a fried product because it's the hot trend. It's the latest and greatest thing, and it's the hot trend. But when you really go behind that door, you find out all those fryers, they're maxed out. And so you cannot produce your product in a time frame that the end user is expecting. So if it's QSR, the end user expects to be served, within this 3 to 5 minute magical cycle. And so the recovery of the fryer doesn't recover fast enough. They can't drop enough product. They can't cook it out, or they're short cooking it, and so the product quality comes out and it's no good. That one to me happens the most frequently. Of you go in there with every great intention, you're doing exactly what the corporate's telling you to do, but in reality that's not what happens at the restaurant level.
Thank you.
Patti, Mike Cannon here. I got a quick question, and it's regarding the required skill sets from a supplier's sales force to implement some of the things that you mentioned on the call today. As an industry, where do you think we are, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, we've got the right kind of sales organizations to take this approach properly, or where else, might we be on this scale? I'm sensing there's a skill mismatch to execute some of the things you talked about. Your thoughts?
I agree. But the hardest thing about the staffing to be successful, I personally feel, is the relationship amongst the manufacturing group between people that are truly salespeople that, they'll take a bullet better than no one you ever know, right? And they can be in front of the client. They can have those hard conversations. They can get yelled at. They pick themselves back up by their bootstraps, and they go on, and they don't take it personally, and they are able to manage and network and work their way around a corporate. Great skill, and you got to have them. But I would say your product development people are the people that really need to be able to say, this menu item that we are producing or going to go try to produce is aligned and will do well, or it's not aligned and it won't do well. And I think where the crossover is the sales team has to listen to your internal product development team at the same time that they're listening to the customer. And so that salesperson needs to balance the teeter-totter and be able to explain to the customer why his idea of a Boston cream pie is not going to, it might be a great idea, but when the rubber meets the road, it probably will not be a long-term success because of the following things that happen in the restaurant. So it's that the salesperson has to play that game of he's the marriage counselor, if you will, between internal and external people. And then internally, they really have to understand the restaurant itself. When I first joined McDonald's, I didn't work in the food industry all my life, but when I first joined them, the very first thing that they did, I went to corporate, thought I was there, had my little cubicle, my little telephone, my little computer screen. I thought life was good. And within a matter of, I think it was about 4 hours, they marched me into my car, into a physical restaurant. They handed me over, shook my hand to a restaurant manager. I got a crew uniform, and they said, now don't come back to corporate for 6 weeks. And it was like, oh, okay. And I worked every shift, every position that I could within 6 weeks. So opened the store at 3 o'clock in the morning, closed the store. That was back when McDonald's wasn't doing 24 hours, so closed the store at midnight, truck deliveries, scrubbed toilets, scrubbed parking lots, washed windows, did it all. And you get, once you do it, you don't have to do it in every single restaurant because the pains that the restaurant have are almost identical. But you should experience it. So if you are aligned with one customer that is, very good and they're a key customer of yours, and you can say, can we go into your stores and work? Free labor for the stores, so the stores are going to accept it. And it's a great learning opportunity for everybody, and I would strongly, strongly suggest it.
Hi, Patti. Mm-hmm. This is Debbie Bacher. How are you? It's great information. Thank you so much. I have a quick question for you. A lot of operators, multi-units, chains, they like the idea of more of a relationship with their suppliers versus a transactional relationship. Can you talk a little bit in your experience as to what type of information is valuable to operators beyond simply the product sold that would actually tighten the relationship between the operator and the manufacturer and the selling process to more of a relationship versus a transactional one? What type of information are they looking for to help them with their business? Is it on consumer behavior? Is it on trends, futuristic approach? Can you talk a little bit about that if you could?
Certainly. First of all, I would say it kind of depends on what functional area of the person you're talking to. So if you are if you're having conversations with menu and or marketing and they're looking for more of a relationship, they will want to know what you know about consumer trends, people's buying patterns, eating out patterns, what's happening, who's got the money to spend, and what are they spending it on. They'll want to know, how frequently everybody eats out. So NPD and Technomics, two great sources of a lot of information. So if you're having conversations with marketing and menu development, what are the trends? What are the latest in the food wars? What is, all of the food scientists saying is the latest seaweed-infused, algae that's got to go into the products. They'll want to hear all of that stuff. So if you don't have it, at least try to get the information, try to buy it, or, try to have somebody within your organization research it for you. When I was in that marketplace, what are the financial trends? So what's happening with wheat? What's happening with corn and oil and milk and soy? And, where is all of that food ingredient thing going? They'll want to know that because that helps them mitigate any risks on their end. If you're talking more to operations at the restaurant level and or equipment/construction team, they want to know efficiency. They want to know energy costs. They want to know the latest and greatest cooking trend. So it really depends on who you're speaking to. Those guys will want to know what Burger King's doing. So they'll want to know how are they faring out relative to their competition. What's the mobile technology trend? What's digital menu boards doing? What is payment at the table? So from an operational standpoint. So it's kind of like you got to know who you're speaking to know what the information is. But it is all about what is everybody else doing and how can I be better than them? Or, what we used to always say is how could I protect you from having something happen to you whoever I was speaking to. So if I was talking to the head of operations, it would be, okay, I'm seeing this trend. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I've seen it, and here's some things that I think you could do to be ahead of it so it doesn't impact you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it really does. So many of them are checking the internet right now. Information's available to them 24/7. So I was curious what information beyond their own personal research that they do for their area of question would be most valuable to them.
Yeah, so, Twitter, Yelp, LinkedIn, Foursquare, all of the things that are around, you can read up on what other people are saying about you. And I know they're checking it, but a lot of times the people that you talk to probably aren't. The statistics, I think, is if you're in corporate America today, you receive anywhere, and I think I got this right, you receive anywhere between 92 to 136 emails a day.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you laughed, it's probably light, right?
It's right, yes.
So it's like, do I really have time to go out there and see what they're saying about me?
Yes.
So, I'm working for Burger King. Do I really have time to go out there? No, I will, unfortunately, I'm going to sit back and wait probably until I hear it in the hallway. So it's kind of how do you keep them ahead of the game and do it in a manner that's not just another email.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. It's information when they need it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
On demand.
Thank you.
And Debbie and Patty, this is Mike Schwartz from IFMA. I just wanted to jump in. Patty, you had mentioned a couple of providers before, and for those that don't know, here at IFMA, we've partnered with Data Essential on our consumer planning program that really provides an in-depth look at the consumer. And so not only do we have this very large consumer study, but we also are able to tie that into specific operator chains when taking a look at different occasions, meter types that are going, to specific chains and using that data that way too. So, just wanted to throw that out as another tool for, those that are looking for insights to bring to some of your chain partners. Just another one that's out there.
That's terrific, Mike. Thank you.
But I know that we've got about 5 minutes left here, so. Patty, thank you very much. I want to turn it over to Mike Cannon just with some following or finishing notes here. Mike.
Great, thanks, Mike. Patty, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I made a couple notes myself that I really drew out of your conversation with us, and I was really intrigued by your one slide that had the sweet spot and really that convergence of menu equipment and then process and people, and how important it is to really maximize those categories and make sure that we're very purposeful in our approach. And I really enjoyed that slide in particular. Great. The other thing that I enjoyed was hearing you in your food for thought summation about going after that long-term menu strategy as well as their overall growth strategy. And I like that because it grounds us in their business, the operator's business, and gets us out of the blinders that we tend to have within our own business and our own brand. And I thought that was great advice. So, Patty, we appreciate your time, and we certainly appreciate your insights that you were able to share with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to have the conversation.
You bet. And then certainly to the rest of the folks on the call, just a couple quick updates. Our next call is August 21st at 2 o'clock, and right now it looks like we have some folks from Which, a fast-growing, fast-casual chain, going to join us. So we are confirming all those details now. So look for the announcements coming from IFMA. And don't forget a couple events that IFMA has coming up. One is coming up rather quickly on Monday afternoon. Bill Day from Cisco is going to be participating in a webinar talking about the status of category management, both in the industry as well as what's going on with Cisco corporately. So anybody that has any involvement with all that's going on there, you may want to tune into that. He's going to talk about some of the best-in-class manufacturers in category management today, but more importantly to a lot of us, what are the opportunities that are being presented there? So you can go to the website under events and get registered, and I think at the end of that webinar you'll be pleased that you were able to spend an hour with us. And then coming up in early August, the Marketing and Sales Leadership Forum is August 5th and 6th in Buffalo. It's hosted by one of our members, Rich Products, and there is quite a bit of information. We talked about information on the call with Patti that will be shared there. So again, I encourage you to register on our website and either be there or send your insights folks to take part there. So I appreciate everybody's time. Thanks for your hour that you shared with us. Patti, thanks again. And with that, I'll turn it back to Mike.
Great. No, Mike, you said everything perfectly here. Look out for an email from me over the next few weeks with further details for the August call. But again, to reiterate, thanks again, Patti. Thanks, Mike. And we will talk to you all next month.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, bye.